What's up, guys? Werner Von Monrad here. Today I want to talk about something a little bit different than I normally do, as opposed to just sort of a particular record or a CD or whatever from the past. I want to talk about an event that's going on right now in hip-hop that a lot of people are talking about, the Lord Finesse versus Mac Miller lawsuit. And I want to just really touch on why it's actually, I think, more important than probably even the people who are talking and buzzing about it right now realize. Okay, so Lord Finesse is suing Mac Miller for a song he did a couple years ago called Frozen Pizza and whatever. Sorry, I don't know, but Frozen Pizza is definitely part of the title. And it was a mixtape track that Mac Miller did years ago for one of his earlier mixtapes, where he used Lord Finesse's instrumental to hit to the game. Hit to the game right here. You like what I did right here? This is the kind of ingenuity that keeps me #1 in the game. So Lord Finesse released this Hip to the Game. It was the lead single off of his third album, The Awakening, which was on Penalty Records. Both the album and the single were 1995. Penalty was pretty small indie kind of label, but I think it was distributed through Tommy Boy or somebody else, so it got major distribution. So sort of an independent label, but pretty widely available and out there. And he had a music video and everything for it, and it's on BET and MTV all the time. Is, Lord Finesse. So, I mean, it wasn't all the time. It wasn't like a big crossover MC Hammer song, but it was a successful, you know, credible hip hop single that, heads who appreciate real hip hop really dug it. It has a really nice sound to it. It's got a sample by Oscar Peterson, which is what a lot of the talk now is about. Now, sources conflict about whether Lord Finesse ever actually cleared that sample for this record. I've heard people say that he's admitted he has it, but I've heard other people say he definitely has, so I don't know. It actually really doesn't matter, because what's interesting about this lawsuit is that it's not about Mac Miller sampling Lord Finesse's record or sampling the Oscar Peterson record. It's that he used, well, first of all, okay, so Mac Miller used the entire instrumental, which, it's a mixtape track. Lots of rappers do that. He just probably took the 12-inch, or more likely, I guess, downloaded it from YouTube or someplace, and just rhymed over the instrumental. So it's not like, oh, they both use the same loop. That's not really part of it at all. Just for interest's sake, I'm going to play a little bit of the Oscar Peterson track. That little bit right there, that's what Finesse used. Because the rest of it now you hear it gets really kind of loungy and different, and nothing on like what Lord Finesse did. So the point is, what Lord Finesse did was really transformative, and you listen to that track, and I mean, it's got obviously the drums are not from Oscar Peterson, the horn samples, the vocal samples, all that, and even the bells don't play in the same order that Finesse has them on his record. So he totally flipped it and made something new. And Mac Miller did not. Mac Miller just took the Lord Finesse beat wholesale and rhymed over it. And now you'll hear a lot of people talking about, like Mac Miller fans will say, oh, well, Lord Finesse is just some, bitter old guy who's mad that he's not #1 anymore. He's not making hit records anymore, so he's just messing with Mac Miller to get some fame. And conversely, you'll hear Lord Finesse saying, his fans saying, like, oh, Mac Miller is just some ungrateful teen who doesn't respect the legend. And, whichever camp you believe in, maybe that's partially true. I mean, it is a little weird when you read Lord Finesse's initial statement that this is about a teenage rapper who blah 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 blah. Like, why would you even specify that he's a teenage rapper in your thing? I mean, that just sounds kind of salty. So that's a little bit weird. But anyway, so that's sort of what a lot of the drama on Twitter and stuff is. But that's the celebrity gossip nonsense that we actually don't care about. We want to move away from and not be distracted by. I mean, think about what this could potentially mean. You're a producer. You use a sample. You clear that sample. So you have the right to that sample. You pay for it and everything. And you still get sued by another guy because you used that sample that you cleared in the same way that another producer used it. So in other words, it's not really about the sample. Although, I mean, I don't know 100% the legalese of Lord Finesse's case. Perhaps they are bringing up the fact that he sampled Lord Finesse's instrumental as part of the case. But it's really not about the sample. It's about the composition. I mean, I'm not mad necessarily at Lord Finesse getting paid over this. I mean, it's his complete instrumental. Mac Miller apparently made heaps off of it, although that's perhaps a little bit in debate. It was, according to Lord Finesse, for sale on iTunes and Amazon. I actually looked on iTunes and it's not there, but I didn't look at until after this case broke, so it's possible, perhaps probable, that Mac Miller just pulled it when this happened. That, or perhaps there's some discrepancies. Also on YouTube, he shot an original video for this single, for this track, so it's not just something that was in the middle of a mixtape. Finesse claims that the song broke Mac Miller. I don't know about that. That might be some hyperbole. But anyway, it's definitely played pretty large. Now they're saying Mac Miller had 20 million views on his YouTube channel now on that just on that one song. Now I looked on YouTube, I found that video, and it only had 50,000 hits, which would make it 19,950,000 views short of Finesse's estimation. But I think what people suggest is that perhaps Mac Miller had another video of it and pulled that again because of this case. And at one point previously there was another upload that had way more views. So I don't know which is true. And it sort of again really doesn't matter. I mean, the point is, it was a small under the radar kind of thing. It was on a mixtape, and then Mac Miller blew up. Now he's big money. Now he's associated with major labels, and Finesse wants a piece of that money. Probably Mac Miller should have just A, threw some money at Lord Finesse, and B, credited him, because he's not got his name anywhere, like in the YouTube description or anything. Nothing about, oh, this is borrowed from Lord Finesse piece. So, he probably should have just done that right away. But he didn't, so this became a whole big lawsuit. He ignored ceases and desist letters, apparently, and it's blown up. But again, I just sort of really bring that up because that's what's not important. I just, get that out of the way so people don't get mired in that part of the discussion. But what's notable here, what's new here, is that Lord Finesse is suing over samples he doesn't own. He doesn't own the Oscar Peterson, he doesn't own the other stuff. He may, again, possibly or possibly not, have cleared them for use on his own record back in '95, but he certainly doesn't own those samples to be suing Mac Miller or anybody else for using them years later. So he's suing for samples he doesn't own. This could be a huge precedent if it goes through. People are saying, and I agree, that this could be the next O'Sullivan versus Biz Markie case. I mean, okay, I will just come up with one example just to sort of illustrate this. I mean, if you think about it, okay, Rob Bass had a song called Outstanding. Rich Nice had a song called Outstanding. The Boulevard Mossy had a song called Outstanding. Shaquille O'Neal had a song called Outstanding, and they all sampled the same original record and have come up with very similar sounding instrumentals. They're not exactly the same. Boulevard Mossy sounds better than Shaquille O'Neal's, but by and large, it's the same piano riff and everything, and all sounds essentially the same. It has basically the same hook as each other. They're all largely the same instrumentals. I mean, they're not, Rich Nice's is more of a house kind of thing to it. But they're all very similar and using the same musical elements. So now, I don't know which of those artists cleared that sample. Probably Shaquille O'Neal must have, because that's big money. But again, maybe Rob Bass and Rich Nice, that was before the whole Sullivan versus Biz thing, so maybe they didn't. But even if they did clear it, in theory, if this case, if Finesse wins this case and it becomes a precedent, then in theory, Rob Bass or Rich Nice could sue Shaquille O'Neal for saying, well, I made this beat first using this sample, even if Shaquille O'Neal did clear that sample. So that's what it is. So now everybody's talking about, okay, the $10 million lawsuit, and, Mac Miller fans are like, oh, we hate Lord Finesse, he's messing with our guy. Whatever, I don't really particularly care. $10 million is a big sort of red herring that's distracting people. It doesn't really matter who wins in terms of between these guys. They'll both continue to go on. Mac Miller's label and stuff can afford it. What's important here is what this might say about the future of hip hop and hip hop production. I mean, if you think about it, the Pete Rock case with Lupe Fiasco, where Lupe Fiasco remade Troy. In that case, Fiasco's producers remade the instrumental using the original samples and stuff and didn't just sample Pete Rock. And so he couldn't really do anything about it except complain on Twitter and have a beef, which eventually got squashed and whatever, and the whole thing was kind of silly. But now, I mean, Pete Rock might be watching this case with interest, because now, if this goes through, maybe Pete Rock could sue Lupe Fiasco anyway, because he made Pete Rock's instrumental. He remade Pete Rock's instrumental. So this is definitely one I'll be keeping an eye on for future developments. Apparently already, Mac Miller has talked to Lord Finesse to try to squash the beef, and it didn't fly. Finesse is still suing him, so it's still going ahead. So, remember, whether you're a big Mac Miller fan or if you're, diehard Finesse fan, doesn't really matter. This is much bigger than Lord Finesse versus Mac Miller. So let's see what happens. Until next time, we're Von Wallenrod, and peace out. Wait, look at this before the video is over. Okay, turn this on here. Mac Miller, Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza, cover version by a guy named Smith Black. That's the name of the song, Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza. Listen to this. How is this a cover of Mac Miller, Kool-Aid, the Hip to the Game? It's what is this? I just had to show you that.